Hello, this is Randy with Excel for Freelancer, and in this week's video we're going to be showing you how to automatically get real-time currency rates, plug those into a customer receipt no matter what currency your customer may have. In this video you can simply select a customer using your base amount currency and it automatically converts to your customer's currency. So it's going to be a great training. Let's get started. All right, I'm really happy you joined me today, and as I had said, this week's video we're going to be taking customer lists regardless of what currency they may have. We're going to be taking a customer receipt. We're going to be converting your base currency into an exchange rate no matter what. So basically simply selecting a customer name, and in this case their currency is Canadian dollars, your currency is US dollar. You simply enter the amount and it is automatically converted to the Canadian dollar. And then you can save that receipt. Also, if your customer has a different currency, simply select Add New, and you can go ahead and give a different currency here, enter the amount as well, and it is automatically converted along with the currency symbol as well. And the best part about it is these currencies are automatically updated to the most recent rates. Also, clicking on the update rates will automatically update the currency to the current rates. And let's get started with the basics on this one. So that is what I want to do. And also, once we do complete it, we're going to be able to show you how to go ahead and print those receipts or email those receipts to any customer. So it's going to be a great training. I'm looking forward to getting started on that for you. And as I had mentioned, what I want in this is I also want real-time currency rates. And as you know, real-time currency rates, you do need a base currency rate. And once you have that base currency rate, whether it's US dollar, Singapore dollar, Malaysian ringgit, or Vietnam dong, once you have that, you can get comparative rates. And they're freely available on the web. So in this particular video, what we have is a list of customers. And then we've set a preferred currency for each customer, right? And then we have our own base currency. For right now, it's in US dollar, but simply clicking on it, it will allow us to update the currency so we can actually change the currency, whatever your base currency is. So if your base currency is Australian dollar, just click here, and then internally the rates will all change based on that base currency. For now, we'll go ahead and set it to US dollar, and you can find it on the list or just type it in. And what we have is the ability now to get those currencies. We can find those from any website, many currency websites. I'm using this one here called floatrates.com. And if we go ahead and here and look at floatrates.com, here's the main website. And what we want is I want those rates in Excel. I want to get all those rates in a table and I want to bring them into Excel. And to do that, we'll want to look for something called an XML feed. And this website has that XML feeds because XML is a format in which Excel can read once we import it via the from web, data from web. We're going to use that. And I'll show you how that would work real simply. We'll go in a new sheet. And let's go ahead and back into that. And we're going to grab that domain right here. Let's go ahead and into XML in their feeds. And I want to show you here in US dollar. Now here's the feed for the US dollar. And basically it is for $1 US and it's got over 150 other currencies. Now I want to bring that, if the US dollar is our base currency, I want to bring that into Excel. And I can do that by copying and pasting the domain there and the URL here as well, the long URL here, daily US dollar. And then what we can do is we can bring that into Excel. And it's done simply going into data from web. And then it's going to ask us, and we'll just click no. We don't need to run the scripts on that. And we're going to paste in our XML there and click go. Now there's a few different possible tables it's going to give us. We only concerned about one table. And let me go ahead and make this larger for you. Now it's going to give us several options. You know, where we see yellow, we want to click only the option we want, which is this table here. We only want this table right here. Okay. And we want to bring that into Excel, import. And we'll start it out in A1. Okay, this is just a blank workbook where I'm showing you how it's done, and then we're going to show you how it's automated. Okay, great. That's what we want. That's what I want, but I want to automate it. Now, how do we automate it? Well, one great way is just to simply use record macro. Let me delete that, okay? And yes, we do want to delete the associated query because we're going to recreate it. So the range it says, do you want to delete the query? Yes, we do want to delete it. So now we have connections. We want no connections in this workbook, okay? And what I want to do now is I want to record a macro this time. I'll click on the record macro, click OK, and then go back into the data from web here and paste in that URL here and click go. Once we have it, again, we will select that table that we want to click is right here. That's the table we want, and we're going to import that table. Same process, except we're going to use A1 here and then click OK. All right, so now let's go ahead and inspect the code once this table gets imported so we can see how that works. We'll go ahead and stop our macro from recording and go into the developers and see what we have. Developers, Visual Basic, or Alt F11 will get you there. And let's go ahead, and this is the new workbook, and let's go ahead and look at that module. Okay, this is what was created. And basically, it says with active sheet, and it gives us that URL. Here's the URL here. That's important. We're going to need that. And it says it's going to start out in A1. Okay, we see that. And let's go ahead. Now, you know, we don't necessarily need to understand exactly what every aspect, but what I always like to do is I want to run the macro one more time. I just want to run it again and see if we can duplicate it or if there's any issues or whatever. So let's just go ahead and click inside here and click run or F5. And let's take a look, and you're going to see that it doesn't exactly work quite right because the information is actually duplicated instead of replaced once it gets refreshed. And I'll show you how to correct that. So let's go ahead and wait for that to complete. And here we go. Here it is complete, but look here. We've got one, and we have another one. We don't want that. We don't want two tables. We want one. So back into our code, let's take a look here. And we have a refresh style here. We don't really want to insert deleted cells. We want a different type. Let's go ahead and take a look. What we want is equals, and let's go over the options. And we see some of the other options. Once we do equals, we want, let's say, XL overwrite cells. We don't want to delete them. We want to overwrite them. Now let's go ahead and take a look at how that works. Let's go ahead and delete this. Okay, we can delete that query and go back in and run that macro again. And let's go ahead and see how that works. All right, as it's running through, what we want is we want it just to replace our existing cells instead of deleting or anything like that. All right, it's done and looks good. All right, we'll just remove it. So we've got that far. All right, let's just clear that out just so we know that the data is being actually replaced since it was the same data. Move it over, run that again so we see that new data fills in, so we make sure that that's going. And okay, great. Now we see that the data is replaced, so we know how to get data from currency rates into that. However, you see this is per US dollar. Not everybody is going to use a US dollar. If you're in the Philippines, you may want a peso. If you're Indian, you may want a rupee. It really depends upon what country you're in. If you're in Europe, you want a Europe. So what I want to do is I want to get base currencies based on whatever rate you set, right, on whatever your base is. Okay, how do we do that, and how do we make it dynamic? You don't want to change the link. We don't want to go in, and we don't want to change this. We don't want to have to go and click. We need to figure out how to do that. Well, let's take a look at this. Let's look at this closer, and we see this URL. It ends in Interesting. What if I replace that with EUR for euro? Let's go ahead and click that. Well, now we have euro. Interesting. What if we replace that with another one, Australian dollar, AUD? All right, and we click on there. Well, now we're getting somewhere. Now we see that the 3-digit currency code based in that URL, right, is good for that particular currency. We also know that in our code, right, in our code, we have that 3-digit right here, okay, and we have it right here. So all we need to do in our code is take this, make it variable within our code. Okay, all we need to do, and then automatically we have our currency based on it, and that's just what I did. Let's go ahead and close this sample workbook because we're not going to use it anymore. I just wanted to show you how we needed to do that, and we've done that already in our rates table, and we've done it within our code. Let's go ahead and into that code again and see how it was done in reality. Okay, we have, this is our customer sheet right here. And let's go into our customer sheet, and it's a very basic sheet. All we have is a list of customers along with their address, city, state, zip code, email, and their preferred currency along with notes. Now I've also taken the liberty of putting in a list of currencies. Let's go ahead and hide columns A and B here and show you what I have done for you. What I've done is I've listed, I believe, 150 or so currencies, nearly 150 currencies, along with their symbol. And I've put them alphabetically so it's a little bit easier. So each currency, not every single currency, but almost all have a symbol there. And so simply select any currency you want. It's based on this list here. So you can change a customer simply by going in and selecting their favorite particular preferred currency. So that is how we do that. And we also have our own base currency here symbol. So when we change our base currency to something different, let's say Singapore dollar would be the same. So let's go ahead and choose a different one. This one would have this symbol, LE. I don't even know what that is. But it's updated, so whatever currency it is. And we can also choose any other type of currency. Let's go ahead and put in INR. Okay, and you'll see this is the RS symbol here. It's automatically based on the formula. Let's go ahead and look at this formula. It's a relatively simple index match, and currency symbol is here. Okay, that is this right here. I've attached this named range with symbol. So what we're going to do is we're going to be indexing currency symbol, and then we need to find the row. What row is this? We can use that with the match. Okay, what are we going to be matching? Well, first we're going to be matching K3. K3 is the currency, the 3-digit currency code. And we're going to be using the list. What list is that? We're going to be using this list of currency. I've used a name range. Currencies is this list here. 0 is for exact match. And back into our index formula here, this would be the column number, and column number 1, right? We're only currency symbol. We're going to be looking it up, and this will return our currency symbol. I've gone ahead and wrapped that on an if error. So if for some reason a user enters something other than an actual currency, you're going to have 2 errors. One, you're going to have one that says this value is not, and let's go ahead and put that 0. So if for some reason we put in a currency that is not accurate, it's going ahead and it's automatically updating, which is good. And if it's not, it'll just show this as blank like there. And we can debug. Let's go ahead and write something in there. In this case, it was unable to find it, so we can put an on error because I clicked delete. So that's good. We'll go ahead and refresh that. We want to make sure that we always put in a currency. If it's blank, it might return an error. So let's go ahead back to US dollar and put that in as our base currency, and it'll go ahead and update. And we also have this message here, and I'll show you how that's done on the refresh. So basically we have a list of currency, the 3-digit code. We have a list of the corresponding symbols that's going to help us out. And we have the symbol of our base currency here. That is all that is in the customer sheet that we have. All right, let's go ahead to the receipts and see what we have going on here. What I want to do is I'll basically want to have the ability to create a receipt for each customer. I want to put in a customer name. I want to then have that preferred customer currency show up based on the customer currency we set in the table. I want them to automatically, our currency is US dollar, so I want to put in $100 and have that automatically converted to Canadian dollars in this case. And then I want to be able to put in notes. Okay. And I want to be able to save that to the next available row or update the current row either way. If we click Add New and we select another row, it will add a row to the bottom of the list like this on Save. So this way we have this. Now the idea is here to basically use these current rates here to get that. All right, let's go ahead back into the code, go back into the code refresh and see how we go about. We have 3 modules here, and this one, currency update macro, simply updates the currency. And let's go ahead and go over this to see how we do that. It's actually quite simple. First, we're going to dimension our base currency as a string. Remember, our base currency is actually going to be located in sheet 1, K3, that is this. This is our based currency, K3, right here. That's our base. So we need to know what that base currency is. And just in case I'm wrapping that in a lowercase, sometimes we get issues when we use uppercase in URLs if it's not an exact match. So just to make sure, I've put it all in lowercase. That may or may not be necessary, but it's always wise to do that when you're dealing with sometimes URLs that are case sensitive. Here, what I've done is I've created this update message. I want to make this visible. This is just simply a shape that tells us that our messaging is, that our currency is being updated. And that shape is active sheet. I actually have that shape on both sheets. If we look in here under message box, here it is here. Okay, you'll see this shape. I've labeled currency update message. Let's go ahead and close that out. And it's this shape right here. I have that on both sheets. It's the same. It's got the same name, so we can use it on both sheets. So when we click update rates here, it's also going to appear here. So when we click the shape, we also see the same one right here. Close that out, and you'll see it also, it's right here on the right side up there. So we have both of those. So this is going to appear once the rates are updating. So it's a handy to know that, hey, so when you select it and you click it, it will show up, and then when it's completed updating, it will disappear again. And we do that in the macro. So this line of code displays currency updating macro. Updating, okay? Currency updating. And this hides it. Hides currency update shape. Okay, I'll put in shape. Currency update. Let's go ahead and put that so that we know what's going on. So all that these 2 lines of code, one hides it and one shows it. Now sometimes it's really quite fast. So we've added a calculate in here. This calculate ensures that this will be displayed. If we take this calculate out, it might run way too fast and will not show up. So this is just a way for that shape to make sure it shows up. So that is what these 2 lines of code in. Next, like I had mentioned before, we set the base currency. In this case, it's the US dollar. And then what we're going to do is we want to delete the connection. I don't want to replace. We're going to get an error if we try to just write a connection over another connection. So this will delete the current connection. And this is important in case we change currencies. So all this does is it deletes. If no connection exists, we might get an error when we try to delete it. So we've wrapped this in on error, resume next, and on error, go to 0. Because this will create an error if there's no connection. But if there is a connection, I want to delete it because we're going to be adding the new one, and we're just going to put it in. Now here we have that URL. However, I've stopped the URL here and the base currency, because this base currency is variable, it could change, and then XML. So we've set the destination as sheet 3 A1. Our destination is sheet 3, which is rates, and A1. Sheet 3 rates, A1. So this is our destination of where we want that table to go. So it's pretty simple. The next is just the basics that go ahead. This was all automated, and it just sets our base currency, field names. It gives you several options of as far as the formatting, file open. So if you wanted to refresh, I would probably change that to true. That means when the file open, it's going to refresh. So you might want to refresh when it opens. But you know what, let me put that to false, because I don't want it, when you open the file, I don't want there to be any delays. Let's say you don't have an internet connection when you open it, but you may want to make this true. Once you get the record going, once you've changed it, you might want to change this to true. I'll keep it false for now because I don't want it to refresh when you open the file, just so you don't have any issues or any slowdown when you're opening the file. But there's a good chance you will want to set this true. And background, it just means in the background it will query. We're going to overwrite any cells that are existing. Okay, we want to overwrite because we're going to only have one table at a time. And there's no password on this. And so it goes over several options about formatting and different things that are not too important for us. For us, we're concerned with just about the data and how often it updates. And that's it for this macro. That's all it does, is update that currency based on whatever we have selected as the base currency. So that is it for that. And next, let's go ahead and go with some on-sheet macros. Okay. When on the customer sheet, when we change this currency, I want it to update. That's very important, right? When we change the currency to another one, let's see, Vietnam Dong, where I'm located, I want that currency to update. So we need to make sure that if there is a change in currency, that macro runs, right? So this is K3. So we can write a simple macro on worksheet change. Remember, not selection change. There is no selection change there. On worksheet change, if not intersect K3, that means if there is a change to K3. If there's a change here, do something. What do we want to do? We want to run this. We want to do two things, actually. I want to do two things. I want to update the currency, but I also want to do one more thing. And I'll show you what that is. On the receipts, we have our base currency right here. You see that? Our currency right now is Vietnam Dong, and you see this VND simple. And this is a formatting, right? So remember, when we put anything in here, it's automatically formatted. Okay? So what I want to do is I want to format this cell, this particular cell, based on whatever currency. If I change this currency back to US dollar, I also want the formats of that currency to change as well. So let's go ahead and change that. And so that's what that one line of code is that you saw, and I'll go over that. Now when we go back in receipt, you see now it's on US dollar. Now it's formatted for US dollar because this is our base currency, So we want this format to change, and we do that with this line of code. So two things. Sheet 2 G6 number format. Sheet 2 G6 number format. We want to change the number format. Basically what I want to do is let's go ahead and look at the format. Home, currency, okay, more number formats. And let's look at this format. Let's go to custom, just take a quick look. And it's $, right? And then the number. So we have that as the number format. And we also add US dollar to that. Because in this particular case, we're going to be working with currencies. Most of the time you won't have both, but this is a currency converter, and I really wanted to show specific currencies, not only their symbol, but the 3 digits as well in this case. So we did that here. The target, we always have dollars always, because that's more of a symbol. And the target value, what's the target value in this case? The target value in this case is USD. Okay, so we're going to put USD in there. That, I keep clicking that link. I know I want to go to our group. Okay, so let's go ahead and move that down so we don't click on it 100 times. And then there we go. Okay, so back into the receipts we go. Now I wanted to show USD and then the symbol. Both. I want both. So in the code we say US target value is USD and B3 value. Remember B3 value? That's our current base code. B3. What is in B3? Customers. Go back. B3 is our current symbol. Remember we used index match to get that symbol? So now we have US dollar and the symbol, because if we change that to VND, right? If we change that and the currency gets updated, you're going to see that the currency now has the Vietnam Dong symbol up there and that. So that basically takes this 3-digit, takes this symbol, and it puts it right here, Vietnam Dong symbol. You see how that works? So it's really, really convenient for us, and that's what that line of code does. It changes the format, and we use that in several places throughout the code, because when we import the customer, we want to do the same thing. And I'll show you that. So that is what that line of code does. And then we simply, if you don't want decimals in your company, for your country currency, you could just simply remove the decimals here like that. For our purposes, we will keep them in. Every once in a while, there is an issue with this conversion, so I've wrapped this also in on air, resume next, and go to air. Every once in a while, if there's no symbol or the symbol is not recognized, but for most currencies it is, but just in case, I've wrapped it in there. And then we just simply run the update currency macro. That's what this is. So it's very, very simple, the on-sheet type of code there. Back into the receipts we go, and also let's take a look at this. Now when we select, let's go ahead and add new. Okay, we don't need this line of code. All right, and when we click add new, you see CAD and then CAD here. But let's go ahead and add new and click on one. And okay, this customer has a Singapore dollar. Let's choose, because Singapore dollar would be the same as US, so it's not it's kind of boring there. But let's choose a different currency. Okay, INR, there we go. And in this particular currency, you see it has automatically RS, right? So again, we've taken this symbol, we've put it in here, we've also taken the symbol. Let's go ahead slide over a bit, and here is the preferred preferred currency symbol. Okay, here's our preferred currency for the customer and the symbol. And again, we've used index match, very similar to that, the same index match formula, except this time we're focused on this particular 3-digit. It looks up the 3-digit, it finds it, and then it puts in the specific symbol there, because I want to take this symbol and this 3 digits, and I want to put it right in here into our converted amount. So if it's 500, it automatically changes, but it keeps that. So when we select a different customer, again, it automatically changes, which is really, really helpful for us. And so that's how we do that, because it's based on a lookup and it's based on the customer currency. We also have an exchange rate here. All right, the exchange rate here is very helpful for us, because it's going to tell us what is the exchange rate. And all this does is it takes VBA and it looks it up. It takes VBA and it looks it up. Let's go ahead and see how we do that. Let's go ahead and take a look at the on-sheet macros for customer receipts. Here in the receipts, we have just a few on-sheet macros here. And then let's go ahead on the customer change. On a customer change, G4 is our customer change. So we want some things to happen. When we change this customer, G4, we want some things to happen. What do we want to happen? Well, first of all, we want to know if B5 is true. And what is B5? B5 is a new. Receipt new. Here's one of the issues that we face. When I select an existing customer, I want to pull whatever the exchange rate was at the time of the receipt entry. I don't want to pull the current exchange rates. I only want to pull an exchange rate on a new, when it's new. So that means I have to differentiate, between an existing transaction or an existing receipt and a new and a new receipt. So we've done that here. New receipt is false. However, when we click add new receipt true, because we need to know if we select a customer, we need to know to get the current exchange rate. But if we select an existing customer, we need to pull this exchange rate. Okay, so it's different. We just need to basically separate between a new and existing. Okay, so so B5 must be true for us to pull the exchange rate. B5 must be true, then I6 value equals B8. I6 equals B8. Let's look at that. Okay, I6 is our exchange rate, and B8 is our preferred rate. There's nothing in here now. We have not selected a customer. Let's go ahead and select a customer. And we see here that it's the Philippine peso. And our exchange rate is 52.2444, right? So it's just going to pull it. Because it's a new customer, it's going to take this value, which also is an index match formula. And that basically it looks up this, and it finds the exchange rate. So all we're doing is we're looking up the peso here, we're finding it, and then we're going to pull in the exchange rate per dollar. And that is what this does. Here's the basic. It looks up the exchange rate. This exchange rate is the actual rate. Let's go ahead and go into formulas, go into our name manager, and look at that. Okay. We won't need that. Let's go ahead and into exchange rates and click on here, and you'll see the exchange rate is that column. Okay, is that exchange rate. It's that entire column all the way through 149. So we're looking that up there. And once we have that there, we can then we know what the exchange rate is. And basically in this case it says if K2 equals I4. That means if K2 equals I4. If our base currency is the same as the customer currency, then the rate is simply 1. It just says use 1. Okay, enter 1 if these two are the same. Otherwise, look up the exchange rate. So basically, if K2 and I4 are the same, we have the same currency, then 1. Otherwise, index and find that exchange rate. So that's what that does. And so we are able to take this exchange rate and bring it over here. Okay, we don't want to put a formula in here. I don't want to put a formula in this because when we select a receipt, I want this exchange rate to put here. So we want to put the formula in a column, in a cell, which is not touched, and that would be over here. So now we have the rates, we know how we get the exchange rate, and we know, in this case, we know how to convert it here. So when we add a new one, we simply select the customer, select an amount, and it's automatically converted over. And in this case, we can use a formula, but we can use that through VBA. And basically all it is in this formula is we're multiplying this times this to get that. And that's just our rate. And this helps us if we change the amount, then all of a sudden it's changed automatically in here. So that's how we do that. Let's go ahead and continue with our on-sheet macros. And also what I want to do is I want to change some number formats, right? I want to change, on the change of a customer, I want to change two cells, K6 and P16. And I want to change those number formats again to whatever the customer currency 3-digit symbol is, I4, and the currency symbol. Let's get rid of this. And whatever the currency symbol is, and I want to do that, okay? So we can do that. So remember, the 3 digits here, plus the currency symbol here. 3 digits is in I4, currency symbol is in B9, okay? Customer currency, I4, right? And B9 is there. So that's how we combine those two to put in the customer. So that means every time we change it, we get a different symbol, we get a different 3 digits, and that's done through this line of code right here. Okay? And that is only on customer change. We do have others. Also, we have P15 actually as well, that is changed as well. And so that if we go ahead and change the customer again And in this case, the customer JMD and the currency symbol. We also see it here on the receipt. So that'll display on the receipt as well. So we have that changed in two different cells, K6 and P15. So when we go ahead and change the customer AMD, it's changed in both of those cells because I wanted to be able to print a receipt as well. So that's how that is done. Let's go ahead and continue on with the code. Here we have another one. If not intersection G4, G6, or G8 is nothing, and B5 is false, and B4 is false. Let's go ahead and go over that. Those are three different things. If there's a change to these cells, and both of these are false, let's go ahead and go back into the sheet. So, if there's a change to this, this, or this, G4, G6, or G8, if there's a change to one of those three, and B4 is false and B5 is false, right? B4 and B5 are false. B5 is false, B4 is false. So what that means is if there's a change and the receipt is not loading and it's not a new receipt, then I want to do something. So basically, if I select one, then the instance. Now they're both false, right? And we make a change. Let's say we make a change to here's what I want to do. On an existing record, if I make a change, I want to change also this here. I want to change this code here also. So 60, and I want to basically make the update necessary to the, let's go ahead and cancel that. I want to make the update to the table itself, but I only want to make those changes when we make a change to the queue. However, I advise not to make those changes because we keep the rates the same. But basically, if we make a change, especially like something like notes, I want it to basically change in the table below, and so we can do that. You see how it changes here? So that's quite helpful as well. So that's the reason. So what we're saying in the code is if there's a change to those three cells and it's not, then I want to save the receipt. Basically, it's going to go through and save the details of those receipts. And you can make manual changes as well, so that might be really helpful. And remember, that's only on existing records. So that's why we have that there. So that's all of this. Here we have selection change. And if you remember, selection change is code that is things that happen when we select. All I'm doing is selecting. Now I want something to change. Now there's two things. I want to highlight the row, and we do that, and we've covered that quite a bit. Basically, all we're doing is we're going to put in the selected row here, and then we're going to run a conditional formatting based on that particular cell here. So let's go ahead and see that. That is this here, this conditional format. And so this rule will tell us to highlight the existing row. We have been over that, so I'm not going to go over that. This rule colors both even, odd or even cells based on that. So basically, the only other code that I want is when we select cell, I want to load the information up here. So we're going to do that through this. So it says B7 is the target row. This puts us the row, and then we're saying if this E is not empty, then load the receipt. We're also not going to go into great detail that because that's on a different lesson, on previous lesson on auto tab, load, and save. We did cover that. Basically, we're saying if there's if it's blank, don't do anything. But if there's a value in column E, then go ahead and load the details up here. So that is all for the on-sheet macros. We have some receipt macros, and let's go over that. We have save, and we're going to go over this quickly because this is not the core training, which is mostly currency exchange, which is really what I want to focus on. But in the receipt save, what I want to do is I want to basically go through every column and save the information. Now look at this. This is I want to go through each column for the column 5 through 12, and I want to save it based on this. And I'll show you that on row 14. This is row 14. So we've mapped out this. Let's go ahead and right click and unhide that. So basically we are saying on this particular macro, on saving, right, I want to go through each column, and I want to take K4 value and I want to put it in column 1 on the row. I want to take I2 value, I2, right, and I want to put it here. So it's going to go through each row and put in, and we use this as a mapping. It really helps us. It avoids a lot of coding. So it's like mapping. So we've mapped it here, right? We're saying what cell do we want to put in this column? I want to put I6 in this column. What's I6? I6 is the exchange rate. Okay, so that's how we do that. So I run through columns. And what column is this? Equals column. Oh, let's spell it right. Column. Okay, this is column 5, right? So I'm going to go all the way from column 5 to column 12, right? Column 5 through column 12. I want to go through that. In the code, 5 through 12. Okay, the receipt column, 5 through 12. We're going to go through each one of those. And we're going to take the receipt row, whatever the row is, right? Whatever the row is, and the column, and we're going to put those values. Basically, all we're going to do is we're going to save data into the table. And then this line of code, this is kind of something new. I want to format the row. I want to format K2 and I4. Basically, excuse me, I want to format column H and column K based on the formats. What are those? I want to format this based on whatever this currency is, which is our base currency. I want to format this based on whatever the currency symbol is here. Excuse me, the currency symbol is here and the currency code here. So we're going to format based on those, since each one of those has a different formatting, so that allows us to do that. So that is how that works. And then all we're doing is we are showing or displaying some buttons based on the conditions. So for example, when we click Add New, we hide the Add New button and we show Save Receipt and Cancel. When we click Cancel, we show the Add New again. So there's basically 3 buttons that we either show or hide depending upon the state. So let's say we're in the Add New state, where we have the ability to basically enter a new transaction, right? And click Save. When we click Save, it goes back to the Save Receipt. And also, if we click Add New, but we select something, it also goes to the existing state. So that is how we do it through code, and basically it's these 3 buttons that we either show or display depending upon the mode. So again, whether it's the new receipt, we're going to hide and show. Whether it's the loading receipt, we're also going to do the same thing with these 3 buttons. Hide and show those buttons based on the state. When we have a new receipt, we also want to enter a formula. Remember, we want to enter a formula here to show so that automatically K6 and I6 both get formulas. Excuse me, I6, K6, and I4, they all get formulas based on certain activities. So when we go into a new, right, K6 is going to be the customer. We want that. That's always going to be the same. We have our K6 here. We have this formula, and what this formula is going to do is just multiply this times this, right? And then the reason is we have that wrapped in if error, because if there's no formula, I don't want an error to show up here. I just want nothing to show up if there is no formula. But as soon as, of course, we do enter a customer, and as soon as we do enter amount, then we will go ahead and get not only the amount, but as well as the symbol and the 3-digit currency code. So we have all of that, and we're just simply, that's simply a multiplication here. We have also a particular formula here. This also allows us to get the customer currency code based on a match of our customer. So it's going to look up our customer, find our customer, and then find the currency. So that is what this does. This formula, we use index match. Okay, we're going to index, what do we want? We want the customer currency. What row are we going to look in? Well, this is a match. We're going to find that row through matching the customer with our customer list, and we want an exact match, so it's 0. And what column are we going to look in? We're going to look in the first column, which is customer currency. Okay, so that is how we locate the customer currency. Again, we look up the customer, right? We find what row. We use index. We're going to index. So this is currency. You see this currency here. See that? Okay, so we're going to look up and then we're going to basically index whatever row that is on. So it's quite a very powerful, yet not too complex of a formula. That is how we locate the customer currency, and we do the same thing, and the customer symbol is the same as what I've shown you. So that is the reason we have those three formulas here, and that is basically it for the new. With the load, all we're doing again is we're taking the values from the table and putting them back into that. We're taking the values from the table and putting them back into the fields here so that you can view or make changes as necessary. And then we also have cancel new, which basically changes the state of those three buttons. One more, I want to make sure that we're going out of the new state, right? If we're canceling new, it's going to be existing. Oh, I know how we do that automatically. So what we're doing is we're selecting this. When we select E16, that automatically loads. That automatically loads it. So when we cancel new, right, it's going to change the state of the three buttons, and it's going to automatically select right here. Okay, and when we do that, our macro runs, that loads, our load macro runs. This let's see, this macro runs right here. Okay, and that changes everything. All right, so that's why when we cancel, all we do is we just select the first available row in a table, and I want to make sure that it's not empty. Right, if it's empty, don't do anything. Right, if it's empty, we don't want it. So it just selects. So when we click add new and we click cancel, it's just going to select it again. Let's do it here. Add new. Okay, and when click cancel, let's move that over a little bit. When we click cancel, it's going to select E16 and just load the first available receipt in the formula. All right, so that's basically, we've covered add new. We've gone over pretty quick with the add new, the cancel, because those are really well covered in this case. And we're going to also go over briefly the ability to email the receipt and print the receipt, because we have gone over these things in prior videos, and we have just two macros that cover the email macro. And all we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating an Outlook application here. We're going to be creating an Outlook email here. And then what we're saying is with sheet 2, we want to create a file name. And then we're going to send to the customer email address. We know with that customer email address, we're going to attach the file name. And this file name in this case is going to be PDF. So what I want to do is when I want to click email receipt, I want it to create an email. I want to attach that receipt in a PDF. So when we click that PDF here, you'll see automatically that receipt gets attached. It's very basic. I expect you to change this and make it something more interesting, but at least it's something simple. So that's what that is done. And the text you can also change, and I'll show you how we did that. Going into 2, we know the sheet 2 is 07 value. Sheet 2 07. That's the email address right here. Okay, and this also is simply looking up index the customer table, and the customer table is an entire table, and in the sixth column is the email column, and then B6 is actually the ability, it was the row. B6 is the row here. Customer row B6. So we're looking at the customer table, B6, column 6, index. How did we do that? Let's go ahead and look at that. Here's the customer table. Okay, actually it's this here. Okay, and let's go ahead and pull that up here. Customer table, here it is. Okay, we only cover 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is all we need actually. The last one is email. So column 1 is the name, column 2 is the address, 3 city, 4 state, 5 zip code, 6 is email. Okay, so we know those columns. So when we want the name, when we want the address, we just go to column 2. When we want the city, the state, and the zip code, we use column 3, column 4, and column 5. And when we want the email, we use column 6. So we've used the same table. We've just used the row that we know the customer row is on. And then again, we've used G8. That's the notes here for the selected row. And then again, the formatting is case 6 plus the formatting that we've added. So all we're going to do is we're going to make this. I've set these particular as the page layout. And the print area, I've set that as the print area. So when we print it, we know, when we print our email, we know what it is. So when we export it as a PDF, right? We know what area it's automatically. We're, we're not going to ignore the printing areas. So we know to abide by the printing areas because we've set that already. And this exports it as PDF, and the file name, it just uses whatever the path of your workbook is that. You may want to set your own path if you want to save it. And then it uses the customer name and then receipt and then underline. So that way we get a nice customized PDF with the name, and then we attach that file name here. We add a subject with their name and your receipt, and we just use some basic text along with their name and thank you for your business. And then we want to display it. If you want to send this without displaying it, use .send. Use .send right here. Okay. That's it. The print macro is very simple. Active window, selected sheets, print out copies 1, ignore print areas false. We do want to keep that print area, and this will print to your default printer. So when we go into the macro and we want to print it, my default printer is just currently set at my Snagit editor, so it will go ahead and print to my Snagit editor, so it's just right here. And so you can see that. And so the email works great, the print great. You may want to expand on this, but the idea of getting any currency in multiple currencies with updated rates is a really great way, especially if you do lots of work around the globe and your customers are from everywhere. I think this will be really a powerful tool. Not only are we converting currencies, but we're doing it in any currency for any type of customer around the globe. Thank you very much for joining me, and I appreciate all of your likes and shares. Keep up the great effort, and your comments and views are always appreciated. So thanks so much for joining me.